Hello and welcome to Connect to Love here on PRN-FM, where each episode is a journey of discovery into the many facets of our connection to love, oneness, and the human spirit. I'm Lisa LeRose, and I'm joined by the most amazing co-host, Michael J. Russ. Each week we choose a new topic that inspires us or that we're curious about. And after we're done with the show, the things that come up during our conversation always leave me pondering more tangents of exploration. I often find my mind wandering and wandering down unexplored pathways. And so one of the things that I was pondering after the last episode was the idea that what if some of the most meaningful moments of our lives aren't the extraordinary ones, but the ordinary moments when we choose kindness instead of judgment and presence instead of being distracted by that thing we call the phone, and love instead of fear. And I believe so many of us imagine our purpose as something so far off in the distance that we think it's really unattainable. We feel like it's something that we have to keep searching for, that after we've had the success or we've had enough healing, we will eventually attain what we call our life purpose. But what if our purpose isn't something that we're eventually going to find? What if it reveals itself in how we live our day? And part of what got me thinking about this, I attended one of the most beautiful felicitation ceremonies in celebration of a dear friend. He is a Sri Lankan monk who entered the monastery at age 10 and continued his journey. They celebrated him on Sunday as he was appointed the chief monk over the whole United States. And it was such a beautiful blessing and honor to be able to attend the felicitation ceremony honoring him. There were so many people that came out to celebrate him and to recognize the full arc of his journey, from a young novice monk to a spiritual leader of an entire monastic tradition here on American soil. The Sri Lankan ambassador to the United States applauded him for his life of discipline, learning, and compassion, and for building a community and touching the lives of so many people. The Pennsylvania governor sent a representative to bestow an honor upon him. The Pittsburgh mayor declared the day Venerable Dr. Pemaratana Day, and there were so many monks that traveled a great distance just to be able to honor him. One of the monks traveled all the way from London, and there were also so many interfaith community leaders that also came out to honor him. It was just such a beautiful and special ceremony. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a beautiful word for what I was speaking about, and it's Dharma. Dharma is often translated as the way, but it isn't just about career or destiny. It's about living in harmony with your deepest nature, living in alignment with compassion and wisdom and presence and love, and of course, connection, because that's what we're all about. Being connected to love. And I believe that the way, or Dharma, is more than just a practice of love as a feeling, but that it's actually a way of living. One of the speakers that came to honor him spoke about, and they all said many of the same things, that everywhere he walked, he greeted everyone with a smile and love and connection and kindness. And one of the speakers got up and said, everyone who's spoken before me has already said so many wonderful things about Bhante Pema, so I'm just going to tell you some stories about his journey. And that when he came to Pittsburgh in 2008, one of the things that he had to learn was to drive a car. And so she helped him in that endeavor and took him around, and one of the places that he discovered was a Walmart. And he loved going to Walmart. So she would call him and she said, "What are you doing today?" And he said, "Oh, I went to Walmart." I went to Walmart. And it was the cutest story because she said, but he wasn't going there to shop. One of his favorite things to do when he went to Walmart was to look at the people's tags. He said, it's such a wonderful place because you can see the person's name and you can call them by name and you can get to know them. And so every trip to Walmart, he got to know more and more people in the community. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is like such a great metaphor for how to live your life, the opportunity that we have to connect with these individuals. And she went on to share that he got to be so connected with the community of people that he met at Walmart that he offered to be of service to them in whatever capacity he could. And one woman, when she had taken ill, he went to see her in the hospital. And there was somebody else that was in need. And although they're monks without a lot of possessions, he assisted in ministering her in the ways that mattered in spending time with her. And I thought that it's just such a great way to recognize that love is always can be remembered one moment at a time, that every action as we walk through our life's journey is an opportunity to share that, whether you call it Dharma or something else. I love the idea of just living in harmony with life and sharing that love. So I welcome your thoughts, Michael. I'm so inspired to share in this conversation with you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this.
Thank you. What a wonderful story. What a wonderful gentleman. It's interesting. Walmart, if you want to get to know the community, the people who work in the community, I'm making an assumption that the people you was talking about were both people who worked at Walmart and people who visited Walmart, because most of the community, Walmart happens to be the main store in a community, and much of the community will come in, pass through those doors. So it's one of the, it was basically brilliant. Let's just call it that. It was brilliant to go to the one place where most of the community, at least the vast majority of the community, would actually pass through, and he could connect with them. And through that connection, get to know certain peoples, and that's kind of the way it works. When you find out, when you get to know people in the community, you take the time to do so, you're going to find that people, you're going to experience times when people are in a hospital, or because you're going to be experiencing that, as well as births and passings and all kinds of things, and you have an opportunity to spread joy and spread love, and that the fact that he did that was amazing to me. That's just the way we all, I think, when we set aside the work we do and the other distractions that are out there in the world around us, in my view, we all have the ability to be kind and be loving to each other, and to connect with and support each other. To me, it's all the outside distractions, external distractions, and power struggles that literally somehow make us forget that we are all one. We come from the same well, and when we pass, we're going to go back to that well just like everybody else. We're here renting a suit of clothes, having a physical experience, and in my view, the physical experience is not about personality or ego or anything else. But, it's taken me a while to get to this particular point. The challenge is cutting through the noise to stay in harmony. To stay in harmony, to live your Dharma. And a great word, by the way. I love that word and what it represents. It's not something you'd think about every day or relate to unless you were really part of the Eastern community. But bottom line, living in I wrote down when you said that, living in alignment with authenticity, because, love and kindness, being the authentic you, that which means that you know who the authentic you is. And that's the other challenge that we have. We have to constantly be alert and aware to what we do and don't prefer, and be alert and aware to how we're treating ourselves, and realizing that the way we're treating ourselves is reflected back to us in our external world. You can't escape that. You just cannot escape the fact that your life mirrors not only your self-talk, your inner conversation, what you're saying about yourself, it's in thinking about yourself and the feelings that you're putting out there. It's literally a reflection of that. So this particular monk, the beauty of his life from 10 years old on, is that he was able to, at a very young age, literally create the life he really wanted for himself, because he chose it and he acted upon it, and he created those high frequency vibrations within himself, which is where we all have to begin. And literally from doing that, he resonated just the most beautiful waves, the most beautiful frequencies to everyone he encountered. He could not, there's no way he couldn't succeed in being a part of the community and getting to know people in the community, because everybody, regardless of what their thinking is, or their persuasion, or their mindset, can gather around kindness. Everybody can understand kindness, and when you're faced with kindness coming at you, being resonated towards you, you can't help but embrace it. You really can't. And that's the beauty of it. I find down here where I live in the South that kindness literally just cuts through everything. It cuts through politics. It cuts through religion. It cuts through all the stuff. Just being kind. It doesn't. Those things don't exist. It's just, hey, on a level basis, if you were just kind and loving to yourself, kind to yourself, loving to yourself, non-judgmental of you and the world around you, that you can have a really, really excellent life. And that's, in my view, what he's done. I kudos to him for, of course, and congratulations for being the top. I don't know what the exact
Chief
title
monk.
is.
Yeah, they called it Chief Monk, actually. And
Chief Monk.
What's really interesting, Michael, is he did not want a ceremony. He's very humble, and he has the most radiant smile. And it was the United States Sri Lankan ambassador that insisted that this ceremony be done in his honor. And when he had an opportunity after all of the other speakers spoke, he got up, and he was very humbled by everybody coming out and honoring him. And he shared the story that he had an uncle that when he was 6 years old, this man was really the model of loving kindness. And he said to him, I want to learn to be like you. I want to be like you. And his uncle sat there for a moment, and he said, well, I really think that you should become a monk. And so for the next 4 years, he kind of percolated, and those thoughts were in his mind. And when he told his mother that he wanted to become a monk and leave at age 10, he said she cried. But he said it was really important, and he was very good at English studies, which was why he was chosen to come to Pittsburgh. His journey hasn't been about converting people to Buddhism. It's about really walking through life and sharing more love and kindness and compassion. And he said that when he said to his friends that he was going to come to Pittsburgh, they said Petersburg. They thought he was going to Russia, which I thought was so funny. He said he had no expectations. He had no understanding of what Pittsburgh was like, but that people started to extend kindness to him and opened doors to new opportunities for him. He was instrumental in expanding Buddhist classes and Dharma classes, not only in Pittsburgh, but in Cleveland as well. He established 2 charitable initiatives supporting Sri Lanka, one of which is ongoing support for orphanages, and the other is a school supply program. And he started doing programs. Somebody said to him, well, there's a senior citizens group, and I think that meditation would be really great for them. Would you come in and would you do classes? Would you teach these senior citizens about mindfulness? And so he did that, and then he started teaching classes in the libraries and doing all of these things. And then one of the university professors recognized him and said, you really need to become a teacher at our university, and we would love to have you do your PhD. So all of these things have been part of his journey. I thought to myself, Michael, because you and I speak about so many different topics, and over the past several months we have been exploring friendship and trust and permission and creation and remembering. And I thought to myself, each one of those conversations that we've had have all been pointing to one thing: learning how to become more loving. Not because somebody tells us to, but it's because of who we really are. And I think that that's what Bhante's journey has been all about. It's really about becoming love and recognizing that we are the source of love. And it's not even about becoming, because, Michael, you and I did a show about unbecoming, but I believe it's about our remembering our true nature, our true essence. And I think that if you've ever watched children at the park playing or in a fountain, you don't need to have to learn how to wonder about things. They just do it naturally. And I think that perhaps that's the way compassion and kindness and love is, that we just allow ourselves to be who we are naturally.
Yeah, I agree 110%. Stepping back to the chief monk, it was interesting because what came to me when you were talking was about his life is about demonstrating. It's the word that popped in my head, being an example of what we can all be. And that demonstration, it wasn't about him proving anything or anything of that nature, but by being his authentic self, loving and kind and compassionate and empathetic, and having mountains of humility, and not being so, as someone might say, full of himself. It's not about him, except for what he resonates. That's about him. And so he was a walking and talking example of who we can all be, and throughout his entire life. From the the fact, it's not unusual that his mother cried, because she's his mother, and I'm going to make a wild guess and say that some of those tears were of joy for the path that he'd chosen for himself.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
and she sent a poem, and actually she said that she recognized that this was his path and his, I don't believe she used the word calling, and I apologize, I don't remember the exact word, but it was so touching that this was his path and that he was really meant to help bring more of his Dharma to the world. And I think that you're absolutely right, that there were so many things that were made possible because that little boy at age 6 knew that he wanted to be an exemplary being, a soul, to be able to spread that loving kindness and compassion, that was his path.
That's wonderful. It is. I mean, to have your mother feel that way about you, I mean, that's the cat's meow. That's the peak of being a parent and being a mother, and that is so beautiful. Absolutely so beautiful. we talk about a lot of things in this podcast, and one of the things that I love the most is the fact that we can come at love for yourself and humility and kindness in such a variety of different ways, because life is multifaceted. Let's face it, we're all multifaceted beings, and the life we live is also multifaceted, and we have to, constantly be vigilant as to making sure that we are, being the individuals that being our best selves, and understanding how the external world is constantly seeking to challenge you to that end. And that this monk is such an example of how you can just cut through life in a way that has lots of joy associated with it. That's what I love about this. Wonderful. Lots of.
And you alluded to the idea of being drops in a well, and I was smiling when you said that, because one of the other speakers, that's exactly what they said. They said that the Buddha often compared our actions to drops of water filling a vessel, that one drop may seem insignificant, but eventually the vessel will be full. So every kind word that somebody says to me, or every forgiving thought, every smile, every moment of patience or generosity, they're all drops. They're all drops. And before you know it, that vessel is overflowing. And when it overflows into a community, you really are making a difference. So often we underestimate the small moments of that smile you give to somebody else, because we're expecting things to be those big dramatic sweeps that you see in the movies, right? But life isn't built by those dramatic moments. It's built by the very ordinary ones. And, I love the teachings of Neville Goddard. And he always would say, you assume the feeling of a wish fulfilled. You don't look for love to manifest and walk into your day. You actually already embody it. And so it's always a part of you, no matter where it is that you go. I had somebody say something to me really curious yesterday, and they actually referred to happiness. And it was sort of interesting, because the Carol Collins and teachers, and you brought it up in the conversation with Maureen about happy, happy, happy. And this particular gentleman said, I don't think I even know how to be happy. I don't know what happiness is. And I thought, wow, it just sort of took my breath away, because I said to him, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. I said, because I am happy. I find joy in walking in nature and in the small moments in time spent with other individuals. And then as we got into the conversation, he could anchor into those moments. Well, yeah, I am happy when I go and I sit in nature, and I am happy when I do this. But it was an interesting perception, and it was interesting to actually acknowledge it out loud. And I wonder how many other individuals that we could help shift that belief, that we are able to do so in walking through our day, is being that embodiment of love.
I agree with you. That's an interesting statement, that they don't know what love means. And anybody who might say that to me, I would simply tell them, look, we all know what happiness is, because we know we have contrasts in our lives. We have contrasts. We've had moments that have been joyful moments for ourselves, what we classify as happy moments, and then there are moments that are the opposite. And the issue with me that I believe occurs, in my view, is a greater association with the opposite, because there is more of the opposite of happiness being thrust upon us on a daily basis. There's examples of it, more examples of the opposite of happiness than examples of happiness. So it's easy for us to forget that how we felt when we walked in the park, or when we walked our dog, or walked our cat, if that's your preference, or when we were laying on a beach listening to the waves, or walking on the beach even, doing something, riding our bike down a trail, and looking at the birds and seeing deer come across our path, and things of that nature. I mean, it was only 2 nights ago that we're on our way home, and I said to my girlfriend, I'm about to pull into the driveway, and the lights on the other side of the house, on the other side of the driveway, there were 2 deer shadows. And I said, there's no clear path through there. In order to get through there, they have to jump our fence and jump the back fence, okay? But I said, do you see those? And she said, yeah, what is that? I stopped, and I backed the car up a little bit, and I turned the brights on, and there were 2 deer, 2 large deer, in fact. And I love these moments that they would feel so comfortable to come into the neighborhood and thankfully not eat our hibiscus plants.
Goodness, right?
Because they love them. They love hibiscus. And I'll walk out there and I'll go, what the heck happened? They jumped over the fence, and in the middle of the night they ate the hibiscus. And, we got to grow them back again. But, we have these moments in our life, and we are, I hate to say this, but we're conditioned to believe that those moments don't matter. We're conditioned to believe that that's just something that occurs, and the real focus needs to be over here on this thing that we consider to be very important, right? The security of your house, the things that are always external things that we are supposed to focus on and be diligent about. And I take great pleasure, as I know you do too, in those little moments. You just said it. Life is a compilation of moments. And I have come to a point in my life where I understand very clearly that when I sit in the backyard in the morning and the sun is just, peeking above the clouds, and it's not 82 degrees outside, it's more like, 70, that's a special moment. When I get up in the morning, it's really odd. I'll get up in the morning and I'll open the curtains in the bedroom. I'll get out of bed, open the curtains, and I'll see this beautiful sunrise. I don't see the sun, but I see the striations of color in the sky. And then I go grab my phone and I go take a picture of it so I can look back on it. I see this happening, and I do this over and over again. And like some people would take pictures of sunsets, I see the east. And so I see the sunrises, and it's really it's really a peaceful moment. It's just a beautiful thing. It's like a work of art, and a lot of people just take that for granted. You just raise the curtains, keep walking on, don't even take a look at it. My girlfriend's like that, quite frankly. She doesn't think that much of it, but to me, I'm like, wow, this is a cool thing. I want to take a moment just to absorb this before I go get my camera and take a picture of it. Because it is so beautiful. The clouds too. There's various cloud formations that I will see that I think are so cool. They're just wispy, or like somebody just took a big paintbrush and dipped it in some cloud and then just brushed the whole sky with it. It made these cool types of formations, or it looked like wind. The wind up at that level is just creating these beautiful waves, just like you could surf them. It's just so pretty. And I look at this stuff, and she looks at me like, what are you talking about? I'm enjoying this moment, And it doesn't matter that you are or aren't. It doesn't matter. To me, that's not important. What's important is I have this warm feeling of just this joy of being alive and being in this moment, experiencing this thing, as insignificant as most people would think it might be. We have been, again, taught that other things are more important. Getting ready to go to work or getting the kids together. You should be getting your kids in the backyard going, look at this beautiful sky, And because it gets drummed out of them. And when they're little kids, they're in the park, like you were talking about earlier, in the park and playing. And what I was thinking about when you were saying that is how easy it is for kids to connect with each other. The ease of them connecting and being kind to each other and being patient with each other and being compassionate and empathetic with each other at that age. What is it, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, playing around in the backyard, and just when one falls, one reaches a hand down and help them get up. There's no, hey, you're this, you're that, hey, you're this color, you're that color, hey, you're tall, I'm short. None of that stuff matters, because that's just fodder that you learn, that's programmed into, I should say, later on in a couple of years, that this person's different than you and they should be seen that way. No, they're not. It's like when you said, when I said drops of water in a well, I thought about this beach that's about 1.25 miles away, and I'm thinking that there's trillions of cotillions, I don't know what you call it, what's beyond trillions at this point, of grains of sand that make up the entire beach. Can't have an entire beach without a grain of sand, right? Without trillions of grains of sand, but it takes one grain of sand and then trillions more. We have a beach, right? You can't have a beach with one grain of sand, but you got to have, you got them all there, and you start thinking about the kind of richness that we have in life, the richness, and I don't know. I'm bowled over by it sometimes. I just sit back and say, wow, how cool is that? And I love that nowadays. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you said that about the grains of sand, Michael, what came to my mind is we think of it as so insignificant. We walk on that sand and we don't think twice about it. But there is a photographer, and I have to go back and find this particular photographer and actually post a link. But what they did was they took the grains of sand and then they used an unbelievable microscope that enlarged them, and they were the most incredible jewels. And it's all about recognizing that we may feel like we are just those little pieces, those grains of sand in the world of all of these people on the planet. But when you look at us, we're so unique and so precious, each and every single one of us. It's just, opening up that aperture to see it. And the other thing, when you were speaking about how you see the sunrise, it's been hot during the day, but I love to open up the windows at night and have the fresh air come into the house. I don't have to have air conditioning. And I've been waking up, even though I go to bed super late some nights, 5:30 in the morning, because that's when the birds start to sing. And they're all different, and it's like it's greeting me to this amazing morning that's ready to unfold my day. I don't know what is going to unfold with it, but it's a great way to wake up. And I don't judge what's going to happen. It's just, okay, well, I guess it's time for me to get up. I might need a nap a little bit later to catch up on my sleep, but it is just a magnificent way to start my day. I'm envious that that's what you're looking at when you get up early in the morning.
Yeah, it's just stepping outside first thing in the morning with my little corgi dog, and he's looking at me going, "You kind of gonna come with me?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll walk out here." And absorb the beauty of the morning, as oppressive as the humidity may be, given morning. However, there's a perfection, I should say, to the moments like that I appreciate them. I hope other people do too, or come to. But it's these little moments that make up that, when you string them all together, when you put more focus on them and the feelings they generate than anything else, than the big things that they tell you in life are super important. paying this bill, paying that bill. We're all making choices, and the choices have led to where we are. And for some people, those choices become overwhelming to them to the point where they are unable to focus on the joy of a moment, because that moment is being taken up by worry or frustration or some sort of fight and struggle in life. And if we've got some listeners that are in that situation, the piece of input I have for you perhaps is that those are just circumstances, that they don't define you, that you have the ability to be just like this monk, kind, empathetic, compassionate in the face of anything. And
right.
the beauty of that is that, again, your life is a reflection of what you're thinking and feeling. Mm-hmm. And so we have to shift the narrative in our minds from fight, struggle, and how am I going to do this and how am I going to make that happen, to higher frequencies of right. loving various moments during the day. And find, the teachers with Carol Collins, they find something to love on, right? Find something to love on. Find the joy in something. Once that narrative changes, and the language that we start to use about ourselves and our life goes from I'm broke to I live in abundance, I am in abundance, that shift in energy from lower to higher, said over and over and over, shifts the energies of that are here all around us. And then you start getting the I'm abundance energies reflecting back at you instead of the I'm broke energy. And the validation that will be there. I know I'm making it sound simple. However, if we focus on the things that overpower us, they're overpowering us because we're thinking about them way too much, and not enough of the enjoying the moments of sitting back and with somebody that we care about, and looking in the eye, having a meal, or playing with the kids. You have time for all of that. It has a purpose. The purpose is higher energies. That's the purpose, and you beget more of those higher energies.
Yep. I'm laughing because you actually stirred up a memory. So I live on the East Coast of the United States, and the East Coast typically, like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, not as much, but it's very fast-paced. Everything's quick. Everybody, go, 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 go. And when you travel to other parts of the United States, and I thought about when I first traveled down south, and I was in a grocery store, Piggly Wiggly. That's just so interesting, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're standing in line, and somebody is chatting, and they're discussing their day and have different people in the community, and you'll have somebody that is perhaps from the East Coast, and they're getting very impatient. They become irritated that there is this conversation because they have places to go and they have things to do, and they do not have time for this conversation. And I found myself when I was in that situation, because there was typically in the summertime, a lot of Easterners travel down south, and sometimes for me anyway, I just have to smile. And when you smile at that person who is impatient behind you, and you just understand that this is really a reminder that we can all sort of change that emotional direction of our day. We don't have to be in a rush all the time. And just sometimes if you're around somebody and you turn and you just smile and just say, oh, isn't it great to be down here and appreciate the different culture and whatever it is that you want to have a conversation about. But you never know when that person leaves the store. Maybe they missed an accident or whatever else it was. Maybe it gave them food for thought to slow down their lives. Like, what is the rush? And we've sort of gotten ingrained in a lot of society norms that we just have to go, 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 and we don't take that moment. So thank you. I thought about that. I thought about the very first time I was down there, and you think, because those conversations can go on. It's not a 5-minute conversation. Sometimes it's a 10-minute conversation. But, there's so much joy in the connection between the cashier usually and the person who's in line in front of you. And you just, you smile about the community and the connection and the love and the caring that's shared for each other and the kindness that they share towards each other. It's really beautiful.
True. It is. In many small towns, it's just like that. And because everybody knows everybody, or somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, it's like that. In my community, that is not such a thing, because the community is rather large, and there are a lot of people who actually visit the community. Millions of people who visit the community because it's a beach community, a vacation community. And so we get people from all over. We get people from your area. We get people from, I saw Pennsylvania Plate yesterday, and in Texas and all the southern states, because they love the beaches. One of the things that's unique is exactly what you're saying. People bring their own energies, the energies they have back where they live, and the impatience and the other things of that nature, to their vacation as well. They bring them with them, and they expect that they're going to face, when they have the same responses. They don't change your responses because they're on vacation, right? They don't change.
Right.
It's like if you're impatient, you're impatient. If you're a crazy driver, you're a crazy driver, and you just that's that. If you're a rage driver, you're a rage driver there, and you're a rage driver here. And we live in a little bit slower community, which is what I love about it. I've been in the big cities. I've been in the hustle and bustle and the rush. And I have a greater preference for being here, which is why I'm here, because it is slower, because you have the ability to take time, even just by yourself, to walk around and see things. You have time to check out at the grocery store and give the person behind who's serving you, the clerk or the checkout person, the deference that they deserve as a human being. And it's not about getting to be their best friend. It's because that's not what it's about. It's about giving them some loving energy, leaving them better than you found. And that is something that can go miles. And you're doing it not necessarily. You're putting it out there. You have to release your attachment about how it's received. That's the biggest mistake a lot of people make, is they want other people to acknowledge that they've been kind or that they've been loving. And that's not true loving kindness. That's loving kindness that can attach to something else, and an ego or a personality. And we have to drop all that. Remember this chief monk: humility, peaceful, and joyful, and loving, and kind, and empathetic towards others, and not have this expectation that somebody has to respond to a kindness or a loving gesture. It's interesting. I did twice. It's just funny. I like to do this because it's fun, and because I like to help other people understand and know that. And I do this, but I was over last week for Taco Thursday. There were these 3 young kids. I call them young men, probably somewhere between 15 and 19, right? 15 and 18, say that. And they were buying getting tacos, right? They'd come in. They were from vacation somewhere, I don't know where. And I said at the end of their when they had ordered, I had said I waited because I knew the gal behind who was serving them, and I said I'll take care of that. And the kid looks at me like, what? What are you doing? And I said, I'm taking care of your bill. And he says, wow. like he was so startled. And then he was extremely polite and very thankful, very grateful. And I said, look, just at some point down the line, pay this forward to someone else later in life when you are in a position to do so. because, random acts of kindness if we all did that, there'd be a whole lot of kindness because it would be random, right? And I did it again with an older woman last weekend. She was 85, and she had come down from Northeast. I can't remember the state, somewhere up there by you. And she was down here thinking about moving down here because her son and her grandson were nearby. And we said, oh, wow, you live it down here. It's so she says, oh, gosh, I just love this. I just love this place. And so when she was eating, I had walked inside to the waiter that was the server that was helping her, and I said, just bring me her bill. And I was off to the restroom when she discovered that was the case, and she was telling my girlfriend, hey, oh, gosh, so thank you. I said, you know what, she was eating by herself, by the way. She was sitting right next to us, and we had a little dog with us, and she was interested in. And it was a nice little thing because there's no one else around. We were sitting outside, and it was a breezy day. It was beautiful, warm but breezy, comfortable. And I get so much joy out of seeing the look on people's faces when somebody does something. She could have $1 billion. It doesn't matter to me. That's not the case.
Right.
The case is I walked up to her and I went over and I introduced myself. Her name was Barbara, and I said, in honor of my mother who passed this year, I'm buying you lunch because my mother. You remind me of my mother in terms of your loveliness, your attitude, your softness, and because she was very soft spoken, and she said, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And I said, "No need." And I said, we got to talking for another half an hour, and which was very, very, very nice. Got to learn about her and where she was. And I don't know if I'll run into her again. I likely will if she moves down here, based on where we were. However, I wouldn't want my mother to know that she raised somebody who did kind things for people. I mean, it doesn't. To me, that's lovely, and I enjoy it, and
Right.
That's why I just enjoy doing it. And Sandy goes, "Did you buy her?" "You bought her lunch?" I said, "Yeah." That's awesome because she does similar things, and yeah. I find it's awesome.
Well, part of it too, Michael. We speak about seeing signs, and you see numbers, and I see numbers, and I see lots of different things. And when your mother crossed, sometimes the messages that come through, you don't even know that perhaps your mother was connecting with that woman on a soul level, and it was awesome. Through her eyes that you could see your mother. And although you don't have your mother here in physical form, to be able to have a conversation and learn about this woman's life or the little moments that she shared with you and Sandy, it was nurturing your soul. And I think that that's really what this conversation is about, what our journey is about, and, really that reflection. The way that she looked at you, whether or not she had children or not, she felt a tenderness towards you both. She felt a kinship towards your sweet little dog, and it filled her heart. And that may have been her only true interaction that was heart-connected for weeks. You don't know that. You don't know that. But that was an opportunity it was a gift for really all three of you. Yeah. And to be able to have that connection. And I really think that that's exactly when we embody that love. We don't ever know the circumstances where we will have an opportunity to act loving. And you don't seek it out. That's what's so beautiful about these moments. It's that they present themselves and you act lovingly because it's your nature. You are the source of that love. And you open your heart and you smile, and it's warm and it's inviting. And I can guarantee you, even if you don't run into her again, both of you are forever changed because of that encounter.
That's always the way it is. Thank you for saying that, though, too. That's always the way it is. I encourage our listeners to, find the moments of their own. to elevate their loving and kindness and compassion and empathy. And there are times that we just invite somebody to eat with us when they're sitting by themselves, or invite them to join us at a different place after the restaurant. Find a little more about them. Find out more about them. Why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you eating alone? And what have you got going on? And invariably they're from out of town and something's happening. And we go, well, next time you come into town, make sure you connect with us. And I give them a card. And sometimes I get a call out of the blue. Hey, I was just down here a year ago and I'm back again. And let's have lunch or something. And it's nice. And you get to learn a little more about them at some point in the future. But you leave it in their hands. It's not like there's any demand of some particular kind of having to do something. And so I think we're giving these lovely opportunities, these lovely moments, I call them loving moments, and if we take advantage of them, fine. If we don't, that's also fine too. It doesn't mean that you've missed out on something or you should be doing something that you're not. It's just we're handed these opportunities, these moments to be kind and loving and compassionate and empathetic to somebody else, not knowing their specific story. And really, a lot of their specific story is not, that important. If they lost someone, I don't want somebody to relive the loss. I want them to feel comfortable talking about something different, because we can't do anything about what's already happened. We can't. I don't want somebody to regurgitate relive their feelings, relive the moment, and all of that. I'm like, if they ask how, for some sort of, could put it a comment, or how did you do it? If I concur with them and they say, how did you get through it? Then I let them know, and then it's an opportunity for me to enlighten and to give them a message of love and how things. This is life. This is we have to expect, and all we can do is literally make sure that we connect with the people in our own lives and make sure that we stay connected. If someone's important to you, stay connected, because you never know when they may or may not be here. They may not be here in some particular time, and that really crushes a lot of people. And I go, you don't want to live in a world of regret. That's a very dark place to be, especially when you can actually, while someone is in human form here, in their suit of clothes, so to speak, you can touch them with a hug. You can help them understand that life is amazing, and that's viewing it from that aspect, regardless of what circumstances they're facing, is much better for them, not only for their own health, but moving forward, whatever happens, than the opposite. The opposite doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't. We program our lives, and if we program, destruction, that's what we're getting, is destruction. So I live by that every day, and I seek to help others understand practically that this is much of life we can't do anything about. We have ourselves, we have our own feelings, our own thoughts. We have total control over what we think about ourselves and our lives in general. However, all of that, put in a positive context, helps everything outside of us. Simplest way I can put it. And that's my contribution to, the tragedies and the things that occur that, that are beyond your control. You can give it love.
Yeah. And I think to always remember that even though we may be in a challenge, we have to know for certain that we are exactly where we're supposed to be, and see that as and see it maybe as a stepping stone. So you're at this point, and then you jump on that rock if you're ever crossed a creek, and you can jump from rock to rock to rock. Either that, you can wade through the water. Sometimes you find those stones that you can jump on, but each one of those is going to lead you to that greater self. And how you choose to walk through your day is up to you.
Right.
And if you want to embody that love, then, you just, as you said, you ask, well, what would love do? You decide how you're going to approach it. And I think that each step towards wherever we are going, we're not looking for this great big breakthrough. It's the path through the world. And I'm sure that Bhante Pema, when he was 6 years old and he admired his uncle for his kindness and the type of human being he was, that he never would have imagined that he would be appointed chief monk of the United States. He said that now I'm going to have more responsibility, but I know that each and every one of you will support me in the next journey of what I'm meant to do. And he's a fairly young man. I mean, so it's a very esteemed honor, but it is very well deserved, and he just shines. And I think that that's an opportunity for all of us. That Sarah Landon says we're not here to get love, we're here to give love, and we are the source of love. And it's that remembering that we are moment by moment by moment, and it's true. And sometimes it's the tiny moments that really make the difference, like looking at somebody's name on their name tag. It's not anything grand. It's just seeing somebody and smiling and connecting with them and really loving who they are in that moment and appreciating who they are. I mean, I think sometimes I feel like I can write a book. I don't know these people intimately, but you see them. And walking into the hardware store, although I do go to the big chain stores, there's a local hardware store. You can buy just about everything in there, and their prices are a little bit higher, but I love the human connection. They know me. There's an interaction. It's sort of like coming home when I walk through their doors. And they have dog treats in there. They have, a lot of different things that the bigger box stores don't have. But what they have is that human connection. And I always leave there with a big smile, no matter what it is. And I've shopped there for years, and I'm grateful that they're still in business, because it makes a difference for me to be able to see and connect with people who have built a family business and, continue passing that along and welcome you with a smile. I mean, it's very soul nurturing for me to walk through their doors.
Beautiful. Yeah. I get you. Such a beautiful thing, really. And I appreciate every moment that I get to spend with you here on this wonderful program that we have been able to maintain now for years, and still won't run out of topics. It's amazing, isn't it? We still have more to say about love and connection, and I appreciate every moment that we do. I definitely do.
I as well, Michael. I mean, it is this. Every conversation is a gentle reminder for me. One conversation can change the world, and one smile and one compassionate choice and one beautiful heart. And I'm so grateful to share this time with you and with our audience. It's just such a blessing, because every act of kindness and compassion and choosing love over judgment really does make a difference, and that's how we change the world. Love isn't something that we just feel. It is something that we practice. And so until next time, keep remembering who you are, keep reconnecting with your heart, keep choosing love, one thought, one moment, one connection at a time. And, of course, peace out. Thank you.
Thank you.